Some of the great gurus and teachers of all times across all religions have stressed upon the importance of meditation. The interesting thing is that across all these meditation techniques, one thing is common, which is training the mind to concentrate and, in the process, preserving attention. Let's cut to today's world, where by and large we seem to be moving in a completely different direction. Those of you who watched the movie The Social Dilemma know what I'm talking about. The movie showed how the most powerful AI algorithms built in this decade are all about capturing as much of our attention as they can. The question then is, in this era of smartphone and notifications, how do you come to terms with this constant invasion of your attention? Hi friends, welcome to Life with Software 2.0. In this video, we're going to get some perspective on how to safeguard our attention in this age of smartphone and notifications. Now, notifications are the bedrock upon which today's apps, and mostly those of future as well, will be building their engagement and retention strategy. Over the course of this video, I'll be covering the following topics in the order that you'll see on the screen right now. First, we'll be talking about why the root of any problem, including this one, doesn't really lie in technology. Then, we'll take a step back and try to understand if notifications are really needed, and if yes, then we'll see why and when notifications become a problem, after which we'll discuss some quick hacks to overcome the problem, followed by a long-term sustainable solution to this problem. So let's start. In this video, we are not really going to cover the different problems that arise because of the constant buzzing of your phones. We are, however, going to discuss the root cause of this problem and what could possibly be done. In my opinion, an oversimplified diagnosis of this entire situation would be to put all the blame on technology, which is what a lot of people already do. But putting the blame on technology is just another excuse of avoiding to look at the core problem. There's a proverb in English language: a bad workman always quarrels with his tools. So before we make the same mistake, I want all of you to watch this small clip.
In the era of democratization of technology, innovation, smartphone, internet, social media, we are becoming more and more dependent on all of those tools. I am one of them. They are as important today as food, as water, as breath, as air. I'm sorry for the question. Are we, a human being, becoming stupid? Are we slave? Is this the modern life slavery for you?
No, I don't see it that way. Even if you were a caveman, you would carry a stick in your hand.
True.
You would never keep the stick down because it was necessary. Maybe there was a snake, maybe there was an animal, maybe there was something else. Always a stick. Today you're carrying a cell phone. I don't see any difference. That stick was useful at that time. This phone is useful now. So life has become so much better because of a phone. But now people are in a state of compulsiveness. Anything you give, they are so compulsive, they make it into suffering. Compulsive eating, compulsive drinking, compulsive everything. So the problem is not phone, problem is not something else, compulsiveness is the problem. The solution is only consciousness, there is no other way.
So now that you've watched the clip, hopefully we do agree on the root cause of this problem. Let's move ahead then. Objectively speaking, notifications are simply channels for an app to communicate with you. Think about this. When two people are agreeing to become a part of each other's network by sharing their number, they are establishing an implicit channel of communication, right? It's a similar situation with an app on your smartphone. So when you install an app on your smartphone, you establish an implicit channel of communication with the app. And just as a person having another person's number reaches out to them, so does an app reaches out to its customers. The question that follows is, what are some of the scenarios in which an app would want to reach out to its users or customers? Now there are quite a few, but some common ones would be: 1. Lifecycle progression, which is all about assisting customers on tasks that they have not been able to complete through notifications. Example, onboarding and profile completion. 2. Reminding them or nudging them on things that they'll probably care about. Example, renewing an important subscription. 3. Updating customers about the status of their action on a real-time or non-real-time basis. Example, an arriving shipment. 4. Promotions, informing customers about new offers, coupons, or discount. The list can go on. But if we were to probably summarize it, we could say that for all notifications, the intention from the app is to communicate either a casual or a non-casual message, and The expectation from the customer is to take some or no action. So now that we understand why notifications exist in the first place, let's understand why and when they become a problem. Consider three channels of communication in today's world: A. Phone, B. SMS, and C. Push notifications. While the first two are mostly, with mostly being in quotes, used by people, the last one is used by apps. Next, let's evaluate these channels on a couple of criteria. Criteria A: sophistication and customizability. Clearly, messaging outperforms phone calls on this aspect, making it less intrusive as well. Similarly, notifications, having been natively designed for apps, offer far better customizability than standard messaging. Moving on to criteria B, which is frequency of communication, this should be a relative no-brainer. For most of us, notifications received is much more than SMS received, which is more than phone calls received. You can take my phone as an example. In the last week, I received about 150 notifications per day, 20 to 30 messages per day, which includes WhatsApp, and 5 to 10 calls per day. So, what's the takeaway? Well, as communication channels become more and more sophisticated, more and more automated, and more seamless, it will start appearing less intrusive at a packet level. And this lack of intrusiveness at face value will not make us realize that we need to establish proper protocols for this communication channel. But the fact of the matter is that we do need to establish those protocols, probably even more than we need to establish with respect to phone calls and WhatsApp messages in the future. And that, my friends, brings us to the million-dollar question. How do we establish this protocol? Is it easy? Is it difficult? Is it easy to implement but difficult to follow? Well, as they say, there'll always be a complex solution for any problem, but that need not be the first solution, right? So to start outlining our first solution in this case, let's for a moment bring up the 2x2 framework of intent and expectation once more. Keep in mind that this attention intrusion framework was made from the app's perspective, but we don't want to be dictated by what the app wants us to do, right? So how could it look keeping our interests in mind? Well, there could be many answers to this, but one framework that helps me is the P1, P2, P3 framework. So what is it? P1, my friend, is priority 1 level intrusion, where you want the communication to be relayed immediately and you want to respond immediately as well. P2 is priority 2 level intrusion, where you want the communication to be relayed immediately, but you do not want to respond immediately, you want to respond later. And P3, as you would have guessed by now, is priority 3 level intrusion, where you don't want the communication to be relayed immediately at all. Let's see how some of my day-to-day apps would fit into this framework. Take Amazon for example. For me, priority 1 in Amazon would be getting notified of an impending delivery. Priority 2 for me would be getting notified of a product that has just returned to stock. And priority 3 for me, which frankly I don't care, is getting notified of product recommendations. Let's take another example. Say WhatsApp. Priority 1 is getting notified of individual DMs. Priority 2 for this app doesn't exist for me, which to be frank is totally fine as well. And priority 3 is getting notified of group DMs, which again is not something that I want to be immediately reminded at all. Once I map the different notifications of an app to this P1, P2, P3 framework, I handle them as follows. For P1, I enable push notifications with sound. I then read out all P2 to email push notifications and silence them. Emails mostly are things that you want to know immediately but respond later. And for P3, well, I disable all notifications. I mostly don't need to know them at all, at least not until I open the app. So what next? The solution that we discussed, is that it? Well, yes, but as I pointed out earlier, this is only the first hacky solution and it has its own share of pros and cons. For example, the dependency on the individual person's alertness to fine-tune notifications is still there. A more long-term sustainable solution in this direction would be to create technologies that keep human well-being at its core center. Think about it. If technology and data can be used to understand our behavior, to maximize our chances of engaging with an app, why can't it be used to minimize that engagement slightly to promote or maximize our well-being? So for example, right now you have this feature on your smartphone where you can simply turn off notifications, but it's a very basic ancillary feature. What if our devices, which is to say our smartphones or laptops or even browsers, get designed keeping our well-being as a fundamental feature? What if they could automatically establish these protocols that we just discussed for ourselves, detect breaches in these protocols, and fine-tune these protocols to become more and more robust? Wouldn't that be interesting? And that, my friends, brings us to the end of the video. Thank you so much for staying with me till the end. The topic that we just discussed is one example of how we need to become better as users as the technology keeps on getting better and better. It's not that far into the future when technology will get endowed with the same level of critical thinking as us humans. At that point in time, we'll need to change our compulsive reactionary approach with a more conscious approach. If you like this video, do share it with your friends, colleagues, parents or neighbors and help each other prepare for a very exciting future with Software 2.0. Thank you and have a good day.